Vulcanus, the best planet in Factorio. Welcome back, we are playing a death world and a mod that makes the game much harder, AVADII Rebalance. I immediately start using an 18x18 substation grid. This way the base will look nice and tidy later. As you already know from the previous episode, the Rebalance mod makes some space-age technologies less efficient. Here on Vulcanus, for example, the Foundry has been nerfed. Additionally, we need much more calcite than before. And of course, the nerfs I talked about last time will still hurt a lot. In particular, that we now need 100 rocket parts instead of 50 to launch a rocket. I also need to figure out how to defeat the first Demolisher, because the starting area doesn't have a tungsten ore patch. However, the rocks on Vulcanus contain a lot of tungsten. Resources we don't need can simply be thrown back into the lava. Is it possible to research artillery with the tungsten found in the starting area alone and use it to kill the first Demolisher? Even with the nerfed foundries with less productivity bonus? We will see. To smelt basic resources I have 8 steel furnaces in operation. Additionally, as you can see, 3 assemblers to craft some intermediate products and another one for pipes. If the total amount of tungsten in the starting area turns out to be not sufficient, I can also farm in Demolisher territory as a last resort. Demolishers remain peaceful even if you mine rocks. They just don't like it when you build in their territory. To generate electricity we need sulfuric acid. It is farmed with a few pump jacks, similar to crude oil on Nauvis. Transporting liquids on Vulcanus is of utmost importance. That's why I've created a kind of liquid main bus blueprint. The first 2 pipelines I'm currently building are for sulfuric acid and water. Oil products are made using coal liquefaction. We need refineries, coal, calcite and sulfuric acid. Electricity is practically free on Vulcanus. Sulfuric acid and calcite turn into steam, steam into water. And since the steam has a temperature of 500 degrees, just like nuclear reactors or Nauvis, you can simply use turbines to generate electricity. My goal is to build a clean base in a very relaxed manner. Let's start making all oil products in this area. Let's get started with heavy oil cracking. Water can be taken from the liquid main bus below. And next, light oil cracking. Petroleum gas and coal can then be turned into plastic. My goal is to craft red circuits, then blue circuits and modules. Productivity modules are extremely important because they allow me to process tungsten with extra productivity. 2 level 2 modules, and that's an additional 12% productivity bonus. Transporting calcite by hand is extremely annoying. So despite those cliffs, let's build a conveyor belt. Since I'm trying to get the achievement Rush to Space, I first have to research a Vulcanus technology before I can work with purple or golden science packs. Artillery, however, requires the golden science pack, which means I have to complete one other Vulcanus research beforehand. This could be, for example, cliff explosives or the improved oil liquefaction recipe. Okay, now we have access to productivity modules level 2. We can now efficiently produce tungsten carbide. The first craft now unlocks the Foundry. Foundries are produced in assemblers or foundries themselves. In addition to the products we already have, we need clean concrete and lubricant. The moment the Foundry is ready, immediately deconstruct the assembler. We want to use the Foundry itself to produce more foundries. This way we get the extra productivity. However, due to the mod AVADII Rebalance, we only have plus 30% extra productivity instead of plus 50%. If you run out of steel to craft additional foundries, use a single foundry to produce more resources. We turn lava to molten metal and then store it in pipes or a storage tank. Then we just flip the foundry and change the recipe. This way we can craft a whole lot of extra steel. With it we can then make more foundries. Under normal circumstances I should already have an extra foundry due to productivity, but because we get only 30% extra with Rebalance, the first extra foundry will only be available after the 4th craft. Concrete can now also be produced with a foundry, and I'm setting up additional foundries to make all iron products available. Let me showcase the reduced productivity again. After a total of 6 crafts, the productivity bar is at 80%. I already got 1 foundry for free, but I need an extra craft for the second one. Time to further expand the liquid main bus. We also want to distribute liquid iron and copper. At this moment I thought to myself, it's actually much smarter if the pipes are arranged offset by 1 tile each. This way the sub-factories can be connected much more easily without the underground pipes overlapping. So far we have produced liquid metal up in the north. Since the recipe to convert lava into metal has been nerfed, by a factor of 5 actually, it makes sense to set up smelting near the calcite deposits. To get rid of the byproduct stone, I like to build assemblers. They can be placed directly adjacent to the foundries and then easily craft landfill. That's 50 stone becoming 1 landfill, way more easy to dispose. We still have to connect the sub-factory to the liquid main bus using pipes. And we are done. I collect a tiny amount of stone in steel chests. With that, the initial foundries can be deconstructed. The chest at the top to dispose of items in the lava will remain. Let's now build a foundry mall to make all iron products available. We still don't have a bot network yet, but it's quite handy to have something like this for handcrafting. The same goes for copper cables and regular copper plates. I'm leaving a bit of space to add a low density structure production later. In the map view this already looks very nice and clean. Next I'd like to automate the production of tungsten carbide. The recipe requires carbon. To make it, this sub-factory will make carbon from coal and sulfuric acid. Up here I'm already preparing 4 assemblers for the production of tungsten carbide. However, we don't have access to a tungsten ore patch, at least not yet. That's why for now the assembler in the bottom left will suffice. Next we will automate the production of green circuits. Because of the mod belt speed modifier and a multiplicator of 0.8, conveyor belts are 20% slower than in vanilla. That's why it makes sense to upgrade to red fast transport belts. For the moment I'm crafting them more or less manually with a foundry that I always carry with me. We continue with the production of red circuits. They are needed for big mining drills and modules, as well as for blue circuit production. Since Rebalance makes rocket launchers way more expensive, a whole lot of blue circuits are needed. The plastic sub-factory will be built down here. Building a starter base on Vulcanus is a lot of fun. We are not in a hurry at all and are building everything systematically. The plastic production requires petroleum gas. And it seems like I forgot to connect it to the liquid main bus. Okay, the plastic production is up and running. In the square above we will build a blue circuit sub-factory. It requires a significant amount of green circuits, sulfuric acid and a few red circuits. The temporary circuit and module mall can be deconstructed now. Time to prepare the rocket silo and launchers. To craft it we need at least 200 electric engines. And very good news, we can now craft the first big mining drills. They are extremely important to mine resources more efficiently. My goal is to deploy a lot of trains. I therefore don't mind transporting items over long distances later on. Still, big mining drills are just so much more pleasant to work with than regular electric mining drills. I would like to send at least 20 to Nauvis. Big mining drills have a resource drain of 60% compared to 50% in vanilla. They are still way better and more efficient. And due to the fact that we have hardly any mining productivity because of the rebalance nerfs, they are an enormous improvement for the Nauvis base. Let's add some more oil liquefaction refineries and use big mining drills to extract calcite. I nerfed the foundry's calcite consumption by a factor of 5. But spoiler alert, the required amount is still quite easy to handle. To make sure yellow belts aren't the bottleneck, I will replace them all with red ones. For this task, it's best to create an upgrade planner. Using it avoids accidentally upgrading other buildings, inserters or belts as well. It's really crazy how much coal is needed to produce heavy oil. Simple oil liquefaction is not particularly efficient. Therefore, I decided to research the improved recipe first. To avoid energy problems on Vulcanus, just add a few more turbines. This is what the base looks like in map view. We are still missing a rocket silo though, and a mall. Modules on the other hand are already being produced in these assemblers. From time to time I have to keep farming tungsten. I can assure you what I show in this video is just a tiny fraction of the entire tungsten farming. We don't need iron and copper ore anymore, which is why I dispose it in the chest and then throw it into the lava. It's quite a job to farm all rocks in the entire starting area. But as a former Path of Exile player, I actually had a lot of fun. A whole lot of grinding and collecting rocks. I'm still not sure if the amount of tungsten will be sufficient to research artillery. This whole endeavor is a funny little experiment. Okay, the rocket silo is finally finished. Using productivity modules is very important, especially when playing with Rebalance. The low density structure production is still missing though. We are already producing blue circuits. What's still missing? Rocket fuel. 100 per launch to be precise. Production will consume a significant amount of light oil. To produce bots later on, I'm already preparing the production of batteries. They are an ingredient of robot frames. I continue to craft items in a semi-automatic fashion. We can't build a bot mall yet, because we want to get the logistics embargo achievement. Next up, the production of the Vulcanus science pack. We start by producing tungsten plates. We require molten iron and tungsten ore. The science pack itself then requires molten copper, tungsten carbide and of course tungsten plates. One ingredient is still missing to get the first rocket. I guess low density structures. I'm trying to evenly distribute the farm tungsten ore between tungsten plate and tungsten carbide production. Nice, the first rocket is ready. To complete the achievements I will launch 500 science packs to Nauvis and 20 productivity modules, level 2, for my Nauvis labs. Still I have to farm tungsten over and over again. With 500 science packs and 20 modules, the rocket is completely full. Let's go! We will quickly fly to Nauvis. I can't wait to finally get the achievements out of the way. It's super annoying to work without a bot mall and without golden and purple science packs. I'm going to research improved coal liquefaction. Not only is it very useful on Vulcanus, it's also just 500 science packs. I cut off all labs that don't have plus 12% productivity. Ah, finally. Now we can really get started. We are going to research logistic system. This research unlocks requester chests and allows us to build a proper mall. In the meantime, let's upgrade to the improved coal liquefaction recipe. Refineries no longer need calcite and sulfuric acid. Instead, we convert both products into steam. Combined with coal and heavy oil, we then get all the 3 oil products. I'm using a pump to control heavy oil flow. It's connected to the tank with circuit logic. This ensures that a certain amount of heavy oil is always available. Okay, logistic system research is complete. Moving on to research artillery. I'm now preparing a blueprint for the bot mall. This one works a little differently than my previous one in the 1 million signs per minute base. I'm not using a yellow storage chest this time, but a red passive provider chest. There are recipes in the game where the recipe has a different icon than the resulting product, which means the old blueprint can't be used with these recipes. There's an internal conflict when only using one parameter. But now I'm using passive provider chests instead of storage chests, and they don't have a filter. This way there is no conflict and we can use it for all recipes in the game. I think I should make a separate video about this. To limit the amount of crafted items, I use circuit logic and read the contents of the chest directly. Because it looks cool, there's also a lamp that lights up when crafting is in progress. On Nauvis, I simply built the same mall for the most important items. This roboport with the 2 requester chests controls the number of bots in the system. Since there are no logistic bots on Nauvis yet, I have to craft them as well and set it all up via remote view, which isn't easy but a lot of fun. 20 big mining drills are now ready to be transported to Nauvis. They are very important for mining resources efficiently. We want to research using golden science packs as well. I'm sure the bot mall can handle their production. Later there will be a dedicated factory and a lot of trains. For now it's just simpler this way. This is a decently looking mall, even though the bots are still very slow. We can now start to dismantle all electric mining drills on Nauvis. In the top right corner you can see that we are already researching artillery. But once again we have to farm more tungsten. I collected all stones from the entire starting area and it still wasn't enough. That's why I'm now farming deep in Demolisher territory. Artillery requires a total of 1500 science packs. Finally, it's time to deploy big mining drills on Nauvis. A handful to farm coal and stone, and we also utilize them to extract copper and iron ore. Rebalance increases the pollution emission from 40 to 50. But since big mining drills have 4 module slots, even with the nerfed efficiency modules we reach the reduction cap. Minus 80% or 10 pollution per minute. Our Nauvis base has a massive shortage of crude oil and thus little plastic and few red circuits. Even though rocket launchers are very expensive, I have to send help from Vulcanus. That's over 3000 red circuits on their way to Nauvis, plus some more productivity modules. We simply don't have enough resources to produce them on Nauvis. Fortunately, demolishers don't care at all when you farm rocks right next to them. In the meantime, we also started producing level 2 speed modules. They can be used to boost oil production on Nauvis. Importing plastic and blue circuits can't hurt either. All of this effort because the second closest oil field on Nauvis is located behind some really big spider nests. Artillery has now been researched. It's time to kill the first demolisher. This would allow us to finally automate the mining of tungsten ore. To produce artillery shells we now require explosives. We don't have any damage or speed upgrades for artillery. But based on my calculations, 4 turrets and 24 artillery shells will be sufficient. That was close. We unfortunately lost 1 turret. This is the exact moment when I looked at the minimap to realize, crap, I killed the wrong demolisher. This was not the one guarding the zone with a tungsten ore patch in it. So let's repeat the attack on this little fella. Got him. Now we have access to the first tungsten ore patch. Since we haven't unlocked elevated rails yet, we won't be deploying a train for now. We will stick with fast transport belts. Since the Rebalance mod cuts mining productivity in half and pollution doesn't matter on Vulcanus, I want to utilize modules. Starting with speed modules to get the production going and then productivity modules. The automatic production of tungsten products is finally secured. We will soon be setting off to Nauvis, but there are a few things still left to do. Like producing a new spaceship in Vulcanus orbit. To make it happen, I'm expanding the mall. We need cargo bays, asteroid crushers and collectors, and of course, thrusters. I'm setting up the production of space platform foundations over here, close to the copper cable and steel production. In the meantime, we've researched cliff explosives. They are also being produced here in the mall. It's a relief to finally get rid of these annoying cliffs. Continuous transports to Nauvis and the construction of a new spaceship require us to build more rocket silos. The quintuple calcite nerve is still easy to manage, but it's funny, I have already depleted more calcite than in the 1 million science per minute base after 500 hours. We will soon craft Power Armor Mark II, which means before returning to Nauvis we can set up a really nice equipment grid. It now offers enough space for 3 exoskeletons and later also a portable nuclear reactor. The starter base on Vulcanus is finally complete. Let's head back to Nauvis and focus on setting up a train base. To solve the oil problem on Nauvis, I will import tungsten plates. We can then proceed to produce artillery shells on Nauvis and then use it to destroy nearby biter nests. I already expanded the mall to make radars, but we also need a couple of explosives. A single chemical plant will suffice. The current production rate is a total disaster without help and imports from Vulcanus, as we only have these 5 pump jacks in operation. For the upcoming artillery attack we use a simple trick. We build the turret on an island. With landfill we cross to the other side. And then before firing we remove the landfill again. This way biters can't find a valid path to attack the artillery turret, which means there won't be any counterattacks at all. Using the artillery remote, I just manually fire at biter nests. Try to aim between the spawners. This way we can take out 2, sometimes 3 at the same time. To clean out the entire area I will use the engineer, once again attacking with defender capsules and personal lasers. Small nests aren't that much of a problem. Large nests on the other hand should be pre-treated with artillery. Once half of the spawners are removed we can go in. It's kind of funny to observe the behavior of the biters. They are completely confused because they can't find a path to the artillery turret. We are surprisingly tanky, using Power Armor Mark II and 2 shields. The entire area south has been cleared, and I already constructed a perimeter. There are 2 large, beautiful crude oil deposits. To build a proper train network, the bot mall has to produce all required train products, like rails, train stations, locomotives and so on. Since the first initial stone deposit has been exhausted, we need a new train urgently. So temporarily we will utilize this new small train to transport stone until the new rail system is finished. A single wagon and a loader and unloader with 4 chests is completely sufficient for now. Let's now start constructing a well thought out double-track railroad network. This is a straight diagonal piece. I developed blueprints specifically for trains of length 6. That's 2 locomotives and 4 wagons. I also integrated substations and lamps into the blueprint. In addition to diagonals, there is of course also a blueprint for cardinal directions and intersections, specifically roundabouts. Roundabouts are, in my opinion, the most efficient, because trains can also turn in them. If a very busy intersection needs more throughput, we can still use elevated rails later on. Patreon supporters can download these blueprints, and rare supporters even get the save games of this run. This way you can play along, compare, or see the following train action in your own game. To fix Nauvis' oil problem, this new train will transport oil from the new deposit to the old oil unloading station in the main base. The old initial train network is connected to the new one, but it will be torn down soon. Now that we have more oil, we finally have enough plastic available, and thus also red circuits. The first initial oil deposit is already connected to the new rail system. Trains can enter the old network over here. A quick look at Vulcanus, where we are building the next space platform. It will be another copy of the ship Wasted Years. We need it later on for the upcoming adventures on Fulgora and Gleba. Constructing ships in Vulcanus orbit requires launching repair packs to avoid damage. This is the new central train station on Nauvis. There is still a lot of space, in the bottom and on top, we could easily build 5, 6, 7, maybe even 8 more stations. Incoming trains turn right over here to enter it. After unloading their cargo, they head up back north, re-entering the train network. North of the base, a square, kind of like a city block, has emerged. Don't worry, I'm not planning to build a city block base, but this one looks similar. This station for iron ore unloading has a train limit of 2. We still utilize electric furnaces to melt it into iron plates, and then up here, gears and steel are produced. The 3 resulting products, iron, steel and gears, are then each picked up by their own train. The central train station also hosts a train refuel station. Here the locomotives can pick up new rocket fuel. This is how a typical loading station looks like. Even though this one is for iron ore, all names for all loading stations will be the same. Item wildcard symbol load. This way we can transport all cargo products with a single train group. The name for the group will be the train configuration. 2 locomotives, 4 wagons and then the wildcard symbol for items. All trains will first go to the wildcard symbol load station. To lead them to the right unloading station, we use an interrupt. If the train has any cargo, the target station will be wildcard symbol unload. The wildcard symbol will be replaced by the actual product that is in the train. And I just noticed the symbol was wrong. I must of course use the wildcard symbol for items, not fuel. We also have to set a waiting condition. We want to wait until the train is empty, of course, and get rid of the wrong wildcard fuel unload. In addition to the interrupt for unloading, there is also an interrupt for refueling. If the train is empty and one of the locomotives has less than 5 fuel, go to the target station wildcard symbol refuel. Again, the actual symbol is replaced by the type of fuel present in the train. In this case it's always rocket fuel. Let's test this train schedule. First it goes to the uniform loading station. Currently we only have 1. Later each product will have its own loading station with exactly the same name. The game will later automatically distribute the trains to the available stations using train limits. To test this train we won't wait until it's completely full. Instead we trigger the interrupt manually. Since the train is loaded with iron ore, the temporary target station is now iron ore symbol unload. The unloading stations have the corresponding product symbol in their name. As soon as the train is empty, it goes back to the uniform loading station. Any of the available stations. In the future, this train might pick up plastic or copper next. Next, let's test the refuel interrupt. I'll trigger it manually again. Since the train runs on rocket fuel, the name of the destination stop is rocket fuel symbol refuel. Currently we only have 1 of these stations with a train limit of 2. Since the train was already fully fueled, it immediately continues back to the loading station. Since all trains for items will have the same schedule, you can simply blueprint the train. New trains can then be built simply by copy-pasting. Doing it here at the refuel station is beneficial, as they are then automatically refueled. It's that simple. We now have another train. We still have only 1 loading station with a train limit of 2, which is why the second train went here as well. Next, we want to switch the copper production to the new automatic train system. First, the copper ore loading station will need the new uniform loading name, wildcard symbol load. Down here we build a new copper smelter. The unloading station has the correct name already. Full copper trains should therefore arrive here soon. Let's test if that's actually the case. Okay, great. The station for the finished copper plates has to be renamed as well. It's once again the same name for loading, wildcard symbol load. The more stations we have, the more trains we need, which is why I have to copy-paste a few more. And lo and behold, a train comes to transport the copper plates. In the central train station, there's already a target station for copper plates. Let's see if the train can find it. Well, there we go, that looks good. This way we can now produce all kinds of intermediates outside of the main base and have them delivered here. Smelting copper in the main base has become unnecessary, so we can tear down all the electric furnaces. Some belts have to be rerouted because of the change. To further boost iron production, we built another outpost. West of the central train station there is a nice iron ore patch. Again, the uniform loading station with a train limit of 2. Throughput at the iron ore unloading station looks very good now. There's already another train waiting. A 4x4 balancer distributes the iron properly. With the new system, coal, gears, steel, copper and iron plates are already reaching the main base. This train system is amazing and works for all item types. However, not for liquids. At least not with the same train group. Liquids need their own schedule, group and trains. The schedule is very similar. However, we are not using the item wildcard symbol here, but the liquid wildcard symbol or fluid symbol. Apart from that, it's exactly the same principle. To transport liquids, I only use 2 wagons instead of 4. That's a capacity of 100,000. Should be sufficient for now. A quick test of the loading station and schedule. Let's see if the train can find the corresponding unloading station. The unloading station is brand new and is located south of the central train station. Okay, looking good so far. I've already demolished the old station for oil unloading. Now we just need to add more liquid trains. Of course, I made a blueprint that can also be copy-pasted. The initial coal and stone deposits are nearly depleted. That's why there's already an outpost for coal here in the east. This train is completely full but can't move on. The reason there's only one unloading station for coal in the central station, and it's already occupied. Completely normal because we have a coal overproduction. I've already made a video about this train system here on YouTube. If you've seen it already, you know it also includes waiting stations. Back then I think I called them relax stations. Now I just call them sleep. There are stations for cargo trains and also for liquid trains. This way we can deploy more trains than there are train limit slots available. Before going into details, let's take a quick look at the spaceship in Vulcanus orbit. It's almost finished. To send the last parts into space, I'm using a requester chest. It reads orbital requests from the rocket silo to see which parts are still missing. These items will be requested and inserted with an inserter. This way we avoid a whole lot of unnecessary rocket launches, because launchers are notoriously expensive with the rebalance mod. At some point I ran out of repair packs. Kind of dangerous, but in the end the spaceship was completed successfully. We will use it to transport science packs between the inner planets. But back to our train system. We already have 23 item trains and 5 liquid trains. Some of which are already waiting in the sleep stations. The area at the bottom is for liquid trains, in the upper half item trains. But how does this system work exactly? Let's take a look at the interrupt. If a train is empty, we definitely don't want full trains to wait here. And if the train also doesn't find a valid destination, then go to this sleep station and wait for 10 seconds. After the 10 seconds have elapsed, the game will then re-evaluate the interrupts. If a target loading station has become available, the train will then set off. If not, it simply stays put and tries again 10 seconds later. Important to know, item and liquid trains each have their own sleep interrupt and, as already mentioned, their own waiting stations. Since the base now requires significantly more copper, we are building another copper smelter. And again, completely train based. This means one station to deliver copper ore and another to pick up the copper plates. Since rocket launchers are so expensive, we are not yet using foundries and are still smelting with electric furnaces for now. Later I think it makes sense to farm calcite in orbit instead of transporting it from Vulcanus. What I really like about this train system, as soon as you build stations and connect the rails, trains come automatically. There's the first train full of copper ore. And here comes the train to pick up the finished plates. We are already close to get mining productivity level 5. But due to rebalance, we also need golden science packs for research. Let's also queue up elevated rails. Without them, we can't use trains on Fulgora. Mining productivity level 5, however, only provides plus 25% extra productivity, not plus 50%. Before we set off to Fulgora, I would like to start the Kovarex Uranium Enrichment, since we've accumulated 40 Uranium-235. Enrichment is very slow, which is why we use 4 centrifuges. Before the second, third and fourth can start up, however, enough excess U-235 must first be overproduced. With this blueprint here, we will enrich more uranium than we will ever need, I'm sure of that. The nuclear power plant provides 2 × 80 or 160 megawatts of electricity, due to the neighbor bonus. To further expand west, we are using artillery again, to decimate large spider nests. The turret is still on the small island, which means once again there won't be any counterattacks. We'll take care of the rest with defender capsules. Because of additional damage upgrades, they have become somewhat stronger by now. The same is true for the personal laser, which also becomes stronger with more laser upgrades. To secure the base in the west, we are building a new perimeter. In this case, a diagonal one. Before leaving the planet, I also want to clean up north of the base. For this, a new artificial island for artillery is needed. It's completely sufficient to thin out the large nests a bit. Current evolution factor is at 0.87. No behemoth biters yet. As soon as they appear, I think we will have a problem. That's why the next planet has to be Fulgora. Tesla weapons are just so incredibly powerful. The northern perimeter has also now been expanded. We no longer have pollution problems on Nauvis because of the distance to the biter nests. The pollution cloud simply won't reach so far. And with that, I say au revoir, Nauvis. Let's head towards Fulgora. Thank you so much for watching. Next episode we will set up a Fulgora starter base. Since conveyor belts are slower and electromagnetic plants have less productivity, it will be more difficult than in vanilla. Of course, we also have to expand the Nauvis base further, deploy way more trains and increase productivity, which is again way harder with Rebalance. If you are able, I appreciate support on Patreon. There you'll find blueprints and Rare Supporter can download all save games from this run. I hope to see you next time.